The salt-streaked wind up here makes paper behave like a living thing, lifting the card, then flattening it again against the linen as if the cotton stock is breathing with the city. From the 17th floor rooftop in Clifton, the Arabian Sea is a sheet of hammered tin, lights from the coastline dimpling it with moving stars. The long table is a runway of flickering candles, bowls of marinated olives, silver-cut crystal, name cards pressed in looping copperplate. My father stands near the eastern parapet with his back to me, talking to a cousin about the year he first sold a crate of nutmeg to a hotel chain. And here, in front of the chair where a server gestures that I should sit, the card lies blank, no ink, no loop. A rectangle of denial that catches the last violet of evening and offers nothing back. The mater d has a careful smile that doesn't touch his eyes. "Madame, please only where you like," he says. But his thumb hovers over the edge of the chair as if to say, "Not this one." Not the center where the cameras already angle for the speech. The band is tuning, the clink of a triangle, the soft bristle of brushes on a snare. My phone vibrates with a text from my younger half-brother. "You reached." Traffic was insane. I watch the hollow between the words and imagine what he won't say, like how he handed the list to the calligrapher, or how the WhatsApp group muted me right after they placed the centerpiece order. I slide the blank card a centimeter, enough to feel the tiny grit of salt between paper and cloth. A draft nicks my shoulder with cold. Overhead, light strings hum. My father turns, scans the table, his face generous and brown, the lines at the mouth deeper in candlelight. He smiles, and there is love in it, but also a learned habit. Greet guests, keep peace. Ignore the small fires if the dinner is bright. He looks from one perfect looped name to the next and stops, then looks at me, then looks away. In the next minutes, you'll see how a blank card becomes a lever. Some stories begin with raised voices. Mine begins with a silence that makes your teeth touch. My chair scrapes the stone with a damp squeal. Farah, my stepmother, approaches with scent like white lilies and new banknotes. Her dress moves like poured tea. She presses a kiss in the air near my cheek and says, "There was a last-minute adjustment." You know how calligraphers are? The explanation arrives dressed like a compliment. She holds the mistake like a teacup. Delicate, precious, not to be put down for fear it may leave a ring. The wind lifts the ends of her shawl and carries a whiff of smoke from the kitchen, cumin and butter. I can taste heat already, a promise of chicken tikka and charred lemon. A waiter pours water. The glass sweats and prints a ring on a coaster embossed with a gold N for the restaurant's name. I think of the loops in the other cards. Imran, my half-brother. Walid, our cousin and event planner. Nadia, my father's oldest client. And a late addition, the chair to my father's right reserved for a special guest. I already recognize by the shape of her shadow. Beneath the shawl, someone with a cadre of donors who can turn a trade association vote with one call. The blank card sits between an ant with a fast mouth and a chair that I suspect will be quietly removed before mains. To widen the aisle for the cake, I place my hand on the paper, not to claim it, but to feel its weight. Cold air runs under the hem of my blazer. The seam edge is stiff because I ironed it tonight for the photographs. The fabric's texture grounds me fine twill, black like ink after rain. Walid materializes with his planner smile, glad handing my shoulder. "Zara, you beautiful ghost," he says. "You slipped in without a hello." He keeps his hand on me a breath too long, squeezing lightly like he's testing a fruit for ripeness. "I came early," I say, "to see the seating." He follows my gaze to the blank card, and his tongue makes a small click against his teeth. "The calligrapher miscounted," he repeats, as if inside the script there's absolution. "But you know what Baba always says? A seat is just a seat." The night is about being together. A gust punches the table runner. The candle flames bow, then right themselves with a stubborn tremble. The city below lets out a siren, distant and thin. I nod once, my mouth cool. I've always been the operations brain in a family that adores a flourish inventory. Clauses, timestamps. I reverse bad orders, rescind duplicate payments, and reconcile ledger entries like lines on a music sheet. When something fails, I don't raise my voice. I pull receipts. The band begins an old film tune, something with brass that remembers happier years. My father's laugh carries across the roof like a raised flag. My phone buzzes again, this time a message not meant for me. Waleed's group ping misfires. A forward lands in our childhood cousin's thread by accident. A screenshot of tonight's seating chart annotated in blue. Move Z2 back if she shows optics. I watch the three dots blink, vanish, blink again, panic encoded in ellipses. I don't reply. Seems I'm not family. I say it quietly so only the card can hear. Light holds its breath under the first stars. A waiter sets down a basket of warm naans. Their scorched blisters scent a little sweet, a lot comforting. I tear one and pass it to the aunt with a fast mouth, who doesn't meet my eyes. A knot of donors near the bar laugh at something my stepmother says and then look at me. Then laugh again, softer, like the wind is a censer. I hold the card to the flame for a second, enough for the heat to touch it without marking it, then set it back. Heat and decision are twins. I'm not here to smash a table. I'm here to set a record. At 9:30, speeches will start. At 9:40, the cake will come on a trolley with sparklers. At 9:50, my father's friend from the Customs Bureau will make a joke about my father's first seized shipment and everyone will laugh. And my father will retell the lemon story. And someone will whisper that Zara used to keep the paperwork in color-coded folders when she was 14. At 10, Farah will thank our family and our team, and she'll hold my father's elbow with both hands. And the photographer will frame them against the sea. And there will be no image of me at the center table because there's no card to hold my place in the story. The wind stiffens again. A napkin shivers off a plate and slides toward the parapet. I catch it with one hand and smooth the creases. The fabric is rougher than it looks, cheap beneath shine. I slip the blank card into my wallet between my ID and a folded photocopy of the partnership deed for our family import business. I didn't come empty. My phone holds a ladder of evidence, bank logs that show a strange movement of funds. 2 days ago, when I was accidentally left off the final planning call, a scanned clause from a trust letter that everyone treats like folklore. A recording of a vendor who swears he was told to reroute an invoice through a temporary account to expedite party costs. And emails reversal confirmations. Redactions, forwarded approvals, all time-stamped. The air smells like hot metal and coriander. I've been invisible before. I made systems from that. The chair to the right of my father is still empty when the band segues into jazz. As the guest of honor's shadow grows, I feel the last piece click. It took me weeks to trace the trail, months to accept how the small cuts added up. A meeting moved from Monday to, as discussed, a signature line that no longer asked for my countersign. A courier slip that never reached my desk. I grip the stem of my glass and feel the cold ask me a question. Are you ready to be precise even when you're hurt? I am. I learned this work at 14 when my mother's hospital bill included a line for a test not performed. I reversed it with a list of timestamps and a nurse's shrug captured in a careful sentence. I learned it again at 19 when the bank tried to apply an early closure penalty that the brochure promised didn't exist. I escalated with a clause number, a polite threat of the banking ombudsman, and an affidavit from a manager who remembered the day I signed. Process has assent to. Paper warmed by a copier. Ink that smells faintly of iron, and the mineral bite of the notary's stamp. My father finally sees me seeing the empty, and shame crosses his face like a cloud passing over a courtyard. He takes a step toward me. Then someone touches his arm and points toward the microphone. The night has its own gravity. He moves to the center, raises his hands in a blessing he learned from his father, and the crowd hushes. "Thank you for making time," he says, his voice warm, familiar, a housecoat voice. He talks about beginnings in a one-room office with a fan that squealed. The smell of burlap, the thrill of the first overseas call. He talks about how family is the ledger where love is recorded, not always tidy, but always balancing out. He uses the word together 3 times, and each time it lands, neat as a stamp. Approved, received. I eat 2 olives and put their pits in a little dish. The brine wakes my mouth. A line of sweat gathers at the back of my neck as the wind dips. A hot pocket settles over the table. Farah looks at me once, quickly, then away, like touching a hot pan by mistake. Imran rolls his shoulders and takes a breath like he's about to dive. Waleed's smile thins and the skin under his eyes tightens. They know me well enough to fear the quiet. When the special guest arrives, Anaya, a board member of the Trade Council, her shawl smells like tuberose and rain. She has a way of pinning the room to her that is part grace, part calculation. She kisses my father's cheek, congratulates him, and slides into the chair at his right. Cameras click. The sea, for a moment, looks like it's listening. I stand. Chairs whisper. I don't tap the glass. I don't raise my voice. I step toward the front with my phone in my hand and the blank card in my wallet and the heat of lamb. Chops rising from the kitchen like red breath. I say my father's name, then my own. I keep it short enough that nobody thinks I'm hijacking the night, long enough that no one can pretend they didn't hear me. I brought a gift, I say. It's made of paper. The room tilts just enough to make people set down forks. The slow surf of city noise below seems to draw back, preparing a wave. I tell them about a card with no name. I don't ask for sympathy. I prefer a ledger. I say in the last 60 days, a number of invoices were routed through an account that doesn't match our vendor records. I say a lease addendum for the warehouse was executed without the mandatory countersign from both partners. The clause requiring dual authorization was redacted in the scanned copy presented to the bank. But the original is notarized and recorded with the registrar, and I have it here. I say, the party budget includes a payment made from the business account for decor. That, while sumptuous, is not a business expense under our partnership deed. I reversed that transfer this afternoon at 1607, wire ID ending 3914. I say an employee was pressured to send a correction. Email that attempted to rescind my authorized access to the logistics dashboard. The reversal email they drafted is here, timestamped, and the server logs show the exact minute the attempt was made to revoke my credentials 1922 on Wednesday. The tablecloth under my fingertips is stiff with sizing. It snags a little against my nails. Someone laughs once in a broken way, then stops. Farah's hand tightens around the base of her glass, her diamond ring tapping once against it like a little bell. Imran's face goes from color to no color. Waleed's eyes flick to the Mater D and back. The candles crackle softly as their wicks tunnel. I continue, not fast, not slow, only exact. I say, when you remove a name from a seat, often you are removing a signature from a line. That line zoomed wide enough is a right, and that right zoomed wider is an inheritance, not always of money, but of place. I say, we are not in a living room. We are in public at a venue whose contract I requested and read. The contract, as it happens, states that any significant change to a private reservation, like a reconfigured seating plan that affects an identified co-host, requires approval from all listed hosts. And I am listed. I show the PDF, Clause 7B, with my initials on the margin, countersigned by the manager. Witnessed by Anaya 2 weeks ago when I ran into her at the desk and she said, laughing, you always read the fine print. Anaya blinks, then nods, slow, a little impressed. Maybe a little worried that her name is now a contour in this evening's map. My father looks like he's trying to add a column of numbers while standing on a moving bus. The scent of coriander thickens as the kitchen doors swing but don't open. My phone screen glows white-blue. The night air is cooling again, and I can feel the drop like a relief stamped on my skin. I say, I've filed in small claims this afternoon. Not for money, for an injunction to compel compliance with the partnership deed, and for declaratory relief that I remain a co-equal partner with full rights as defined in Schedule 2. I say I filed at 1435. It was received and recorded by Clerk Nabila. The stamped copy is in my bag. The hearing is set for 10 days from now, expedited under the compliance provision. I say the court has already served notice by email to the registered addresses and paper service will follow. I can confirm that notices were delivered at 1811, 1812, and 1814 because I set a read receipt. The audit trail is clean. The band's trumpet player shifts his weight and the instrument makes a soft sighing sound like a man's apology. The air is ribboned with smells now char, mint, a hint of exhaust from a generator kicking in somewhere below. The temperature dips. A woman across the table rubs her bare arms and asks for a shawl. Light from the string bulbs falls in neat beads on the polished cutlery. I say, this isn't about cake. It's about a pattern of removal executed with smiles and scripts. And tonight, the script is stupidly neat. And so, because I like neatness too, I brought receipts. Farah says, Zara, darling, I raise one finger, and it is not a shushing. It is a bookmark. I'll be brief. I take out the stamped copy. The paper is thick, warmer than the air where my hand held it in the folder. The ink is as black as the sea is not. The clerk's stamp is slightly crooked. I liked it for that, as if the machine remembered a human hand was in it. I say, we will continue dinner. No one will be thrown out. No shouting will improve our compliance posture. But from tonight until the hearing, all business expenditures beyond essential operations are frozen. I notified the bank under our dual control alert, Code Larkspur, if you remember, because our mother liked the flower and bank manager, Umer, executed the freeze at 1720 pending the court's guidance. The code is reversible within 72 hours upon mutual consent, but not unilaterally. I say any attempt to transfer funds will flag and notify me and the auditor I engaged this morning. RF, who will perform a preliminary review starting Monday. I say emails where you attempt to rescind my access will be forwarded automatically to counsel, Sanan, to our external accountant. I say recorded. Someone near the bar sets down a glass too hard. The clunk rings across marble. My father brings a hand to his mouth, drops it, brings it again. He looks at me as if rolling back through time. Finding the 12-year-old who folded packing lists into thirds and labeled each with a tiny letter Z in pencil. Heat pricks the back of my eyes, but I am a stone in a cold river. Water moves around me. This is not the place, Farah says, but she is careful with the volume, careful with the script. This is precisely the place, I say. We're in public. The pattern is public. The solution is procedural, not theatrical. Anaya clears her throat. May I see the clause? She asks, and her voice is made of diplomacy and deadlines. She reads without hurrying, then nods again, slower. I witnessed her initial, she says, not to me, not to Farah, not to the room, but to the idea of documents. The waiter who has been hovering brings plates stacked like a small skyline. He looks grateful to be able to move his hands with purpose. I take my seat, the blank is gone now, and my place is made of action. No one argues further. The candles throw small gold lozenges onto the glassware. The first course arrives, and the smell of lemon and smoke tells me the kitchen is relieved. Motion is normal. Procedures are comfort. I cut a wedge of charred lemon and drag it across the meat. The acid opens the flavor like a door. The fork's tine scrapes the plate with a tiny chalk sound. A breeze returns lighter than before. The night adjusts its shoulders and sits with us. If you think this is the start, you're wrong. It's the middle. The start was months ago when a drawer in the office was mysteriously relabeled. Proved invoices became archived. My key card stopped working between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. maintenance. They said, with an email so polished you could see your face in it. The start was when a vendor wrote, as instructed by Waleed, in a text about how to address shipments. And when I asked for the instruction, he sent a photo of a sticky note. No letterhead, no initials, a smiley face drawn in one corner like a bandage. The start was a sentence at breakfast from Farah. You know how hard it is to keep track of everything? Men don't like so much paperwork, and the way my father looked tired, like a building under scaffolding. I did not shout. I created a folder named Maple. Inside it, I placed screenshots. Reversal emails, affidavits I drafted and had notarized by Asif. Who wears a green sweater in every season and keeps cardamom pods in a jar on his desk? I kept a log of dates and times. I recorded with consent calls with vendors who were told to transfer through temporary accounts. I requested the venue contract as a co-host and countersigned it with the manager, Leela, who put her finger on Clause 7B and said, "You're the first one to ask for this in 2 years." I'd like you on my side in a fight. I engaged RF to design an audit trail that couldn't be quietly redacted because it wrote its own shadow to a separate, read-only ledger. I opened a small claims template, filled in the case caption, and saved a draft. I set a rule in my email that forwarded any message containing the phrase, "revoke access to a folder named Orchard," and to Sena's address with a timestamp. I kept breathing. I kept polite. I kept hot tea on my desk and a scarf around my shoulders because the AC in the office runs cold like a replacement for control. I watched my father accept help because he was tired and because he likes a quiet house where the linen napkins are folded like roses. I watched Imran learn power from edges, not centers, and I watched Waled sell optics like they were ethics. I bought 2 pens that make thin lines and wrote down everything. When the first reversal came through on an invoice, I celebrated by taking a walk along the seawall at dawn. The wind then was a clean blade that lifted the hair at the nape of my neck. Fishermen were hauling nets. The smell of diesel curled low over the water. I put the reversal email in maple and added a note. 1 stitch. That was the day I decided to set an alert with humor at the bank. He agreed to a dual control freeze code that could be executed if clauses were violated. We named it Larkspur because he once gave his wife a bouquet of it when he forgot their anniversary. He laughed when he told me. His eyes were tired but kind. He stamped the alert code on a printed sheet, certified it with a dull red stamp, and slid it into my folder as if he were sliding a promise across a cafe table. The next stitch was a courier slip that went missing. I called the courier office, asked for the route camera angle. They sent us still the envelope placed on our reception desk at 14:09. The shadow of a hand that is not the receptionist, taking it at 14:12. I asked the building for their lobby footage. They would only release it to law enforcement or with both partners. Sign off. I waited 2 days and then filed a small request to preserve the footage. It was recorded and witnessed. I didn't tell anyone. I made tea. I watered the plant that no one else has noticed is real. People think evidence is always a smoking gun. More often, it's lots of little warm spoons. I kept a spare pair of flats under my desk and a copy of the partnership deed in my bag, folded into thirds edges soft from use. The deed is old, but clear 2 signatures, mine and my father's, equal control. Defined scope, carve-outs, and a clause about public representation that many people mistake for a courtesy sentence. It isn't. It compels acknowledgement in formal events related to the business. And though a birthday is not technically related in a legal sense, the presence of clients, donors, and trade council members nudges the evening into the category called public representation. A lawyer might argue against it. A judge might raise an eyebrow. But the venue contract was unequivocal. Co-host equals co-operable. I didn't need to win them all. I just needed one lever to flip the tone. When the blank card appeared, the air around my face went cool. It was a neat metaphor, to neat like a script dropped by a careless stagehand. I dislike melodrama, but adore an instructive coincidence. The card's edge pressed into my palm and left a small white line that vanished in seconds. I took that as permission to proceed. In the weeks that followed, I collected signatures. Santa countersigned the complaint. Nabila stamped it. Asif notarized my affidavit. Humor certified the freeze. Arif witnessed the audit trail setup. Each action made a sound in my body like a page turning. I recorded those sounds in a notebook I never showed anyone. Maybe that's sentimental. Maybe it's my own private liturgy. Tonight, when the room tries to remember how to chew after I speak, I pick up my fork and lead by example. We chew. Butter yields under heat. Conversation resumes in careful strips, as if words had become plastic and had to be molded. Anaya asks my father about a shipment from last year, and he tells a lemon story. But he adds something new. Zara handled the paperwork when the port system crashed, he says, and his mouth softens. His voice lands like rain on an old roof. Farah laughs at the right moments, but a vein in her temple twitches when she thinks no one is looking. Imran leans in. You blindsided us, he mutters, low, a hot whisper that smells like cumin and wounded pride. I filed, I say. In daylight. You could have talked to us. I did. You said, maintenance. He looks away, out over the sea, where a boat is dragging a string of lights like a floating street. The air tastes metallic, like a coin on the tongue. I drink water. The glass leaves a crescent of condensation on the cloth. My father finally finds the shape of what he wants to say. We should have done better, he tells me. Not loudly, but not in secret either. I will read your filing. You'll receive the paper copy tomorrow morning, I say. And the language is clinical because that's what keeps the blood in the veins. We eat, we listen, we reach dessert. The cake comes out taller than some babies. Tiers of buttercream that smell faintly of vanilla and promises. Sparklers spit light. The photographer says, one more, and then another, and I step just enough into the frame that if someone ever looks back and wonders who balanced the ledger, they'll see my shoulder, the corner of my mouth, and the good black blazer. I don't need the center. I need the record. After the sparklers die, after the song, after my father's friend from customs tells the joke about the first seized shipment, after people start looking at their watches and calculating how much longer they must be gracious, I hand my father an envelope. It's thin, and it isn't money. He opens it. Inside is the blank card. Pristine. The edges now warm from being in my wallet. He looks at it, then at me. It's not a weapon, I say. It's a witness, he nods. The sea wind lifts his hair. For the first time tonight, his shoulders drop a centimeter. He slips the card into his pocket. Later, after the last guest, he'll put it on his dresser, and for a while it will mark a day. People drift to the elevators. Anaya squeezes my arm in a way that says, I see the path you took. Waleed packs the extra favors into a bag with quick hands, calculating who still needs to be charmed. Farah asks the Mater DA question about the bill in a tone that assumes yes. Imran lingers, like he forgot something and can't remember what. I stand by the parapet. The stone is cool under my palms. The city is a hive with its own music. A server brings me a cup of tea without being asked. The steam lifts and softens my face. I inhale cardamom and heat. Sodium lights smear the horizon. Someone downstairs blasts a motorbike and the sound tears up the night like a zipper. I know what happens next, and it is not a fight. It is a series of small, exact motions. On Sunday, I'll email Yumer to confirm the freeze is recorded. On Monday, Arif will arrive with his laptop and a portable scanner. And we'll sit in the office with a polite smile and a spine made of well-sharpened regulations. He will ask for the last 6 months of expense records. We'll note each redaction attempt. We'll print a schedule of exceptions. We'll request the camera angles for the warehouse. We'll mark where signatures don't match. On Tuesday, Sana will request production of communications related to revoke access. And Waleed will ask a friend whether memes are discoverable, and his friend will text back an emoji that is not help. On Wednesday, the building will receive a preservation notice for lobby footage. The receptionist will call me in a small panic, and I will say, I filed. This is normal, and she will make an extra cup of tea and place it near my chair when I arrive. On Thursday, we'll receive a letter from Faraz's counsel explaining how all this is misunderstanding. It will be polite, edged, and it will ask for a meeting without prejudice. We will accept, and we will meet in a conference room that smells like carpet cleaner and ambition. We will sign the attendance sheet. We will exchange copies. We will speak in slow sentences that could be read aloud later in a different room to people in black robes. On Friday, my father will call me in the morning before he goes to the office. He will say my name as if he is remembering a password. He will ask me to come by at 11. I will say yes. I will arrive 2 minutes early. I will sit in his office that has smelled the same for 15 years paper ink, a faint cologne that lost its label. He will close the door. He will take the blank card from his wallet, place it on the desk, and then put the partnership deed next to it. He will run his finger along the line with our signatures as if it is Braille. He will ask 3 questions. Did I fail you? Can we fix this without breaking us? Will you stay? I will answer 1 and 3 straight and 2 with conditions. We will agree to immediate steps. Keys surrendered by those who shouldn't have them. Codes revoked and reissued. Expense categories clarified and locked. Emails rewritten. A memo circulated. An apology drafted and filed like any other record. We will schedule an internal audit quarterly for a year. We will reissue the authorization matrix so countersignatures are not a courtesy. They are compliance. We will notify vendors of the correct accounts. We will audit the charity donations and return any that carry conditions that violate policy. We will print the new version of the roll chart and pin it to the corkboard in the glass corridor where everyone can see it. We will circulate minutes. 2 weeks later, at the hearing, the magistrate will be uninterested in family pain and very interested in clause language. Santa will lay out our receipts. Farrah's counsel will try a soft focus. The magistrate will say, "We deal in lines here, and I will love her for it." We will confirm the freeze, convert it to a lighter control pending compliance, and agree to an audit timeline. We will sign the consent order. A copy will be stamped and recorded. I will run my thumb over the raised seal because I like the way it bites. Across those weeks, little things will move in the house. Farrah will reassign the living room cabinet to a bookcase. The porcelain will go into storage. The photo of my father and me at a trade show in 2012 will return to the hall from the upstairs landing. Imran will stop by my desk to ask a real question about routing times. He will fidget, then stop, then ask it better. Waleed will send a flurry of emails with too many adjectives. Then he will send one with simple verbs. We will throw out the roses folded napkins. We will return to squares. In the evenings, I will walk the seawall. The wind will be softer by then, making a sound in the palms like a kind of applause. I will take the blank card out of a drawer sometimes and look at it the way you look at a scar that made your gait better. It will smell faintly of my desk, paper and tea and dust. A neighbor's daughter, Noor, will knock one afternoon with a financial literacy assignment and a question about receipts. She will be 17 and irritated with a boy who insists money is about vibes. I will show her how to reconcile a petty cash log. I will tell her about the night the card was blank. I will not dramatize it. I will teach the verbs filed, served, executed, recorded, frozen, audited, redacted, time-stamped. Certified, witnessed, countersigned, escalated, cited, complied, enjoined, indemnified. She will say, "I didn't know you could do that," and I will enjoy watching her spine adopt a new angle. Anaya will call to ask if I'll sit on a subcommittee reviewing vendor compliance for the Trade Council. I will say yes if the meetings are short and the minutes are sharp. She will laugh and promise both. She will mention offhand that the night on the roof has already become a lesson people repeat without names. As if the facts are a little parable about contracts and courage. I will think about this and feel both seen and ideally invisible. One late afternoon, the light will be that yellow that turns everything into a memory while it's happening. I will walk into the office with a pack of sticky notes and see my father at the corridor corkboard, adjusting the authorization matrix printout. His fingers smoothing a corner that keeps lifting. "Tape," I will say, and he will hold out his hand. I will put tape on his finger. He will apply it. The paper will hold. The AC will hum like a distant engine. The smell of someone's microwaved biryani will drift in and make the day human. We will bring in new staff. We will let one go quietly with a letter that cites cause neutrally and offers a way to exit without drama. We will revise the policy about event expenses. We will replace optics with compliance in 3 internal documents. We will add a line to the onboarding guide that says, "Countersignatures are not an insult. They are architecture." We will hold a training with coffee that tastes like someone tried. There will be a moment with my father on a Sunday when he will sit across from me, elbows on knees, and say, "I thought protecting you meant making it smoother." And I will say, "Protection without respect is just velvet," and he will exhale for a very long time. We will keep going. There will be a day when a cousin in another city calls to ask for help with a will because her brother has ideas about removal. I will send her a template and a list of verbs and tell her where to get the affidavit witnessed. She will text me later, "I filed and I didn't shout," and I will smile so hard my tea drips on the table. There will be an evening when Farrah on her way to a charity board meeting. will stop by my office and ask a genuine question about a clause. We will read together, standing, quiet. She will say, "I did not want you to hurt him," and I will say, "I didn't." And we will let the sentence settle like dust, which is not an insult. It is the thing that makes beams visible in certain light. There will be a slow recalibration at family gatherings. The long tables will still appear and candles will still hum, and the sea will still act like a mirror and a wall. Cards will have names. Mine will be written in clear ink. There will be a little space between chairs for movement. The band will play a tune that remembers a happier year, and we will let it exist alongside complicated ones. The photographer will take photos, and I will not need to step forward to be seen because the camera will already expect me. A year later, when my father's company celebrates a contract, we'll host again on a roof. The wind will be cousin to the old wind, but less sharp. The table will have name cards with a sturdier font. The folder in my bag will be thinner. The mater d will greet me like we have a common language, which we do. He will say Clause 7b, and we will both grin. An old friend of my father's will make a toast about integrity, a word that can curdle if used too freely. This time it doesn't. It tastes like cold water after walking in heat. I will look at my father's face in that light and see a man who has learned that love is not always saying yes. Sometimes it is saying, "Sign here." He will raise his glass to me, not for optics, not for peace, but for accuracy. At the end of that night, I will go home to a small apartment that looks toward the west. The balcony will have one chair and a plant that refuses to die. I will put the blank card back in its drawer after touching it once. It will feel thin and powerful. I will make tea and sit on the balcony. The city will hum. The air will settle. I will call Noor and ask about her exam. She will say she wrote the verbs like a poem, and the teacher drew a star on the margin. I will sleep well because systems are a kind of mercy. Months after that, a young man from the bank will email about a training on dual control freezes, asking if I can share a case study anonymously. I will send a timeline with redacted names and clean verbs. He will reply with thanks and a small emoji of a stamp. It will make me laugh. I will print the email and put it in maple because I like a tidy loop. And then there will be a day when I open my bag and the card is not where it should be. My chest will go cold for 1 second, and then I will remember it is in the drawer. And it will stay there, and I don't need to carry it anymore. The lesson has moved from paper to muscle. That night, I will walk the seawall. The wind will push hair into my eyes. I will not mind. I will watch the boats. I will smell salt and diesel and cardamom from a nearby stall. I will stand until the light thins and the sky becomes a ledger of stars. At some point, I will catch myself whispering to the dark water, almost amused, almost tender, a line that began in pain and now lands differently. Tsk, like a key that opens a new door. Seems I'm not family. And I will hear my own answer. Calm, procedural, kind as it is cold. I filed. I served, I executed, I recorded, I froze. I audited, I redacted, I timestamped. I certified, I witnessed, I countersigned, I escalated. I cited, I complied, I enjoined, I indemnified. I rewrote where the ledger had been wrong. If you found something of yourself between these lines, you need a steady hand to map your next procedural step, share your situation. I'll help you list the verbs.